All right. Hello, peeps. Welcome to the Culture and People cast. Today we have John Wortman. John, in a few sentences, would you tell us who you are and what you do?
I'm an executive coach and trainer, and I work on resilience, communication in big companies, little companies, municipalities, and I also do performance coaching for athletes, specifically PGA Tour golfers, and for a couple of my rowers who are on the way to Olympic trials as we speak.
Ooh, that's a fun thing for you. That makes me think of the Alter Ego book, which I was like such a fan of, that whole concept. Such a fan.
Yeah, the best
Lo-
part about working with athletes and with executives is everybody is trying to be better at what they do, and one hand feeds the other in terms of knowledge. And I can teach more people about goals and results because of what I do with athletes, and I can teach athletes more about presence and really working well with teammates because of what I do with executives.
Yeah. I wish more people would sort of adopt that athlete mindset of, I have coaches. I have coaches, by the way, not just one coach, but I have coaches to help me get better in this area, in this area, in this area, where we've got these people floundering, honestly, in everything from startups to Fortune 100 companies thinking that they do it all on their own. Who does that? Right?
One of my golfers who's played in the US Open, a major championship, has a swing coach. He has a trainer for his body. He has a performance coach for the way in which he actually does drills. He has me as his mental coach, and he has his former college coach, who basically is a managing editor, in addition to his dad, who was a Accenture consultant, and so can make sure that his business life goes well. So he's got a team of 6. This is not unusual, in addition to agents as well as other family members on the PGA Tour.
Whew, listen up. I know this is not where we were going, but listen up, people. Like get a community, get a team behind you. I love that. Okay, so I will stay focused today for culture and people. So you've been doing this work for a while, John. What is your favorite aspect of advancing people in culture?
You're already resilient. You already
Mm,
know how to bounce back. Resilience is being a human slinky. And so I show people ways that they already know to be successful, to then figure out what their goals are. And then the next step is, let's build up your Q, your competencies, your abilities in the places where you're weak. But as you're a Strength Finder fan as well, people need to be the kind of individuals who understand why they're already good. Because if you keep telling them
mm.
that they're wrong, it triggers the alarm in their brain, the part of them that's looking out for stress, and they're not going to learn as effectively than showing them where they're great and then growing those edges.
Oh, and from the time that people interview, they're focused on weakness, right? And then the time you come in, they're like, let's do an IDP, an individual development plan, so you can get better at these areas that you're not really good at, when we're not focusing at all on the areas that they're so awesome at.
And you have to do those plans, but those plans should start with, you're already super successful. That's how you got the
Right.
job. That's how you got through school. That's, I mean, only
Mhm.
30% of our country in America has been to college. Well, if you went to college, you're already part of the cream of the
Yeah.
educated folks. And that doesn't mean there's
Right.
not tons of education in folks who haven't been to college, or tons of insight. It means you then go find that insight. So I may be more academic because I went to college. I may be more experienced because I didn't. Go find what people are great at first.
I love that. I love that. So as we think about what makes people great, I've been thinking often about this new remote work, right? Post pandemic, or well, we're in pandemic, let's just say pandemic times. A lot of organizations are retrofitting talent into this, right? Which I think is making engagement a challenge. What are your thoughts on overall employee engagement in the workplace right now?
I wrote a book called Three Commitments of Leadership, and the first thing we teach is clarity. So, the most important thing you have to do, particularly in the new hybrid world that we're leaning into, where you're going to be doing virtual work, you're going to work globally, you can partner with people around the world, is, what's the vision? So, where
Yeah.
are we going? And that should be part of every conversation. It should frame every meeting. It should make sure people
Mhm.
know that this is an organization with an intent. I cannot tell you how many of my CEOs I take care of are not effective at doing that consistently. They think they said it once and it's said. They put it in one email or one global communication. It has to be part of every conversation. Then you've got to do goals in terms of clarity, because if I don't know what I need to do when I'm there, this place that I'm going, I don't have an understanding of my identity within the system. And goals, from a brain science
Mhm.
perspective, create your identity. Once I know who I'm supposed to be, almost naturally, I can then live out that vision more clearly. And we never forget deadlines. Is that if you really want to engage people, tell them when, they'll get it done. You don't tell them when, well, there's more important things to do, like Netflix. I'm tired, I'm exhausted from being in front of the screen all day without breaks. And by the way, the number one stress management answer in the world is bourbon. And the second answer is ice cream. And so that's going to call me from the reward center in my brain and disengage me from anything that you don't ask me to do with complete clarity.
Ooh, that's powerful. Guys, rewind that and listen to that part again because there was a lot of amazing advice in there. But let's get extra tactical here, John. So there's somebody on this is like, all right, I'm ready to increase my deadlines. I'm ready to advance the culture, more clarity, thinking about who I'm supposed to be, who my people are supposed to be. What are some things that they can put into practice tomorrow, either mindsets or behaviors that are going to make a difference?
Actually have a strategy. So
Yeah.
Michael Porter, Harvard Business School, strategy is unique activities. It could be markets, it could be people, it could be geographies. And you actually have to have unique activities. If you're a pharmaceutical company and you've been in the Alzheimer's business and you want to pivot to the MS business, it's going to be a strategic change to go from one therapeutic to another. Be specific. So if
Mm,
you really want to be great with people, you have to actually know what the people are going to do. Then you tie your talented people to that strategy. So my people strategy never starts until I've actually decided what I'm going to do. Get talented people on the bus and everything's going to go fine. No, the talented people are going to drive in circles and eventually drive off a cliff because they don't have a
mm,
map and they don't know with that map what unique activities they're going to use. Are we flying a plane? Are we hiking? Are we riding a dune buggy? Those unique activities of using people have to be figured out. The second thing that is really important, and it's so hard for people to remember, is that you got to make space. So right now we are on Zoom land all the time. And the problem with back to back to back to back meetings, by the way, two of my executives have had blood clots because of it in their legs, is
oof.
that we can't think. So studies have found that if you don't take breaks every 30 minutes, as opposed to 2 hours or 4 hours, you get dumber on cognitive tests. And so people have got to make space, one, in front of this physical reality that is Zoom. We are all all industrial workers in front of our computers. Two, you've got to actually make think space. If you're on these meetings all the time, you're paying attention to the person and their eyes and the movements, and you're not actually moving. Do you remember
Yes.
when we used to move? We used to go in the morning to the yoga studio or to the coffee
Mm,
shop, or we'd pick up a little errand to something treat for the team when we got to work. And then you'd work, and then you'd go to lunch, and then you'd work, and you'd go in between meetings, and then you'd go to an exercise class in the evening or pick up the kids. That
mm,
movement is not here anymore. So you have to make space in your life to let your brain set normally, because it
yeah.
used to happen just based on movement, and your body, every time you move, your eyes are going back and forth and they're actually turning down the stress system in your brain as they look for trouble, scan for trouble. Your brain can't send you trouble signals. When I'm here all day, all I'm getting is internal signals of trouble. So you got
Mm.
to make space away from the screens, but also for movement, but also for thinking in this time where we're in such a repetitive industrial format.
Oh,
And then the final thing that really matters is people have got to train. So I work with athletes, and if they don't have a system that they hold on to make sure they do just the right amount of work, but not too much, people either overtrain or they're not ready. So you've got to put a training system in place for your people so that they can get better. Apollo Anton Ono, who won gold medals in short track speed skating, his trainer and him had a theory: not one nut more. So if we're going to
mm,
eat 72 almonds today, this was Lance Armstrong when he was still considered a great athlete, measuring his pasta. Don't do one more exercise. Don't eat one more thing. Don't do one more thing that you're supposed to do,
mm.
because that training is what allows you to know that you can live into those goals that tie to the strategy and the vision, and ultimately make it possible for people to prove to themselves that they're more resilient.
Yeah, not one, not more. That's powerful stuff. And I will tell you too, John, this personal disclosure, I found myself feeling, I mean, first of all, I'm in mid 40s, so that's probably some of it, but I was sore and I sort of like my legs were sore and I thought, gosh, this is sore like when I used to do CrossFit and I couldn't figure out why I was sore. I was sore because for the previous 2 days, I sat almost all day on video calls, interviewing, doing work for my clients. I was here and my body was sore from not moving. It was just one of those things where your body, you need to listen to those cues, right? From your mind, from your heart, from your body, big time.
And you got to have rituals that you do to recover on the
Mm.
rowing machine or the bike every single day. I do yoga moves in between meetings, and I have a standing desk behind me, and I'm at that standing desk for most of my meetings unless I have to be on Zoom in a more formal setting.
Yeah, good tips. I think everybody needs to personalize their space. And what we did is we moved, we lifted and shifted our work. So we had these executives who were in back-to-back meetings and they called it collaboration. And then we lifted and shifted into these Zoom meetings, right? And so now we're sort of just, it's scrappy. At first it was scrappy. Now we need sustainable. We've got to transition to sustainable practices if we really want to be individually successfully. And I guess like as a community also.
Nothing wrong with Zoom or the other platforms, and in fact, we'll always use them. They just have to be still studied in terms of what it does to a team. Because for some teams, it helps collaboration. For most of my trainings, this beard is a TV star. It's better than some of the in-person ones because people can show up in the middle of a day, not have to travel, not have to be burdened by what they're missing because they can really focus for an hour or two. But in
Yeah.
terms of real collaboration, we need to smell each other. So our olfactory systems are paying attention to stress in others the same way we'd find if we found each other attractive on a date. It's literally a unconscious system that's picking it up, and we need to be with each other. Oh, by the way, do you remember hugs? Hugs were great,
Yes.
right? Appropriate hugs for the workplace, and just
Yes.
being able to high five, handshake, get a beer, get a
Oh,
coffee. We still need that person time, and each company is going to have to figure out. Each
yeah.
organization is going to have to plan for the future in that regard.
Agreed. Whew, lots to think about there, John. So let's do two last quick questions before we let you go. First one, who would you shout out? Who else is doing good work in the ring around people and culture, potentially even a guest on the show?
So Deanna Senior is the former L&D head at Tiffany and Company. She runs her own executive coaching practice. We've got a couple other organizations that send us into training and coaching gigs. And she is one of the most exquisite experts at actually unpacking what a person needs from both the neuroscience and the behavioral perspective, but also from the organizational behavior and from the how are you as a teammate, how are you communicating, how are you leading? Just literally as good an executive coach as there is in the world.
Good. I can't wait. I already have a mind crush on her. All right, Jen. So that's someone who we might want to follow, and we'll make sure we put her in the comment section too. But what about your favorite resources that have advanced your own thinking related to people and culture?
Two books, and I'm going to cheat. The first is my own, Mastering Communication at Work, the second edition. I just got to rewrite my first book. It was a bestseller. We rewrote it for the virtual world. And so it includes equity work. It includes the reality of these spaces and how you get ready for them and how you do meetings differently, conversations that are difficult differently, how you plan your public speaking differently. And so what a privilege to actually learn from the mistakes I made in round one. This comes out in February. My favorite culture book, in addition to that, is The Tyranny of Merit by the moral philosophy professor Sandel at Harvard University. And if you want to figure out why our cultures in the globe are fighting politically, and it shows up at work too, it's about what we've done to say what's smart and what's not. And we really in the future have to be people who understand why we're all biased, why we unintentionally compete with each other in ways that aren't healthy, and how we can all be part of voices that are more communal, even when we disagree.
Ooh, well said. Well said. I was listening to Brene Brown talk recently about the division, right, on her podcast, and just talking about accountability, but also being careful not to dehumanize the other people, right? And so it sounds sort of up that same track. So thanks for the suggestions, John. There was some amazing advice in here. I can't wait for people to listen to this episode. And more than that, thank you for all you're doing for people and culture.
A privilege to spend time with you today. Thank you.
Of course. Peace and progress, guys.